Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from today. I'm Celine Yuan. I'll be your moderator for today's PRIMO Mobile webinar. Joining us today is Vice President of Product Development, Brad Gallion. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A feature on your WebEx toolbar panel to submit questions, and we will do our best to answer your question at the end of the presentation. And again, we want to thank everyone for joining us today. With that, I will turn you over to Brad.
Thank you, Celine, and welcome everybody to our webinar. It's my pleasure this morning to have the opportunity to introduce you to our newest product, PRIMO Mobile. In today's seminar, we're going to do a very brief introduction of November Research Group, of who we are as a company. We're going to talk a little bit about the family of products to which PRIMO Mobile belongs. Then we'll do a brief overview of the product, followed by a demonstration and your questions and answers. Starting with who we are, November Research Group is a software and services company. We provide implementation services for global product safety systems such as Oracle Argus and TrackWise, and we also have a suite of software solutions that integrate with those global tools to further extend and streamline your business processes. We were founded in 2003 by a group of us who have been focused in this area for about 20 years now. We've grown the company to a few over 75 employees located in the United States as well as in Noida, India. We focus exclusively on the pharmacovigilance and quality, product quality issues. That is all we do. And we tend to provide subject matter experts and business analysts to global implementation projects for these major systems. We also have a practice area that's focused specifically on Japan and the challenges that ensue in trying to integrate Japanese affiliates into a global process. What we do at November Research Group is really two things. First, we help companies like you implement global pharmacovigilance and quality systems and really provide the full spectrum of support from business transformation through software selection, installation, configuration, training, validation, and even post-production support. And in addition to those services, we provide a host of additional commercial off-the-shelf software solutions that provide additional functionality and streamline key business processes in these areas. These two pieces of our company actually work synergistically. So as we're doing implementation services, we identify gaps in the software or areas that could be improved. Because of our long history in software development, we look at those gaps as potential software solutions and then work with our customers to provide the ability to close that gap. And in some cases, we make a determination that those gaps and the way that we address them actually have residual commercial value, and so we'll take those solutions to market as standard licensable software. And PRIMO Mobile is an example of that that we'll talk about today. PRIMO Mobile is also our first foray into mobile applications, and we'll talk a little bit about our broad mobile strategy in just a minute. We're also now starting to look at big data solutions and how we can bring this very powerful, robust technology to play to improve the process of pharmacovigilance, both its efficiency as well as its ability to identify safety issues. So that's a little bit about who we are. And before we get into the details of PRIMO Mobile, I want to set the stage by introducing the other members of the PRIMO family. PRIMO started as a global affiliate tool that was built to streamline and standardize the intake process for all adverse events. So our tool that's focused on the manufacturer market called PRIMO, now in version 2.1, is really a central intake system that allows companies to standardize and streamline the intake from all their various sources of information with some specific functionality that we discussed last week in our webinar around handling the inbound email process. PRIMO has a comprehensive correspondence management that allows you to interact with the reporter and acquire follow-up information, and really is focused on all of the steps necessary to initially acquire the data and to quickly determine whether or not this group of information that this case is something that should be forwarded into your global PV or quality process. And if it should not, PRIMO allows you to document why you're not pushing it into the process. So for example, if the determination is made after you correspond with the reporter that it really wasn't your drug, then there's no reason to push that case into Argus for processing. You can just document that fact in PRIMO and move on. After we had developed PRIMO for the manufacturer market, we had an opportunity to work with the US FDA, specifically the Center for Devices and Radiological Health, to solve their intake review and triage problem. And what we found when we started looking at the requirements for the regulatory market is that they had a lot of the same basic challenges that manufacturers were having at the initial step of their business process. Specifically, the regulators have to intake information from a whole variety of different sources. They have to follow up with those sources to ensure that they have an adequate representation of the case, and then they have to take action based upon what they see. So what we found was this really nice fit between PRIMO's functionality and the functionality necessary to support a regulatory authority, with the one exception that for the regulatory authority, this repository really became the source of truth for the safety of products, whereas in the manufacturer market, that's the domain of Argus. So what we had to do for the regulatory version of PRIMO is to add some key functionality, such as query and analysis, so that the regulators could stay on top of the overall safety profile of the products. So now we have two versions of PRIMO, one that's focused on the manufacturers and one that's focused on the regulatory authorities. And these tools are both in production. Well, actually, the regulatory version will be in production in the next couple of weeks, actually. We're very excited about that. But PRIMO has been in production for over 4 years at various customers. And the newest member of the PRIMO family is PRIMO Mobile. This tool has been available for a couple of months now, and it's really focused on enabling the sales and field representatives in the manufacturer segment to quickly and easily submit adverse events that they discover while detailing in the field. They can submit those back into the safety department for processing. And typically, this is a laborious process. So what we're going to focus on for the balance of our webinar today is this PRIMO Mobile product, which is our mobile extension of PRIMO into the mobile world. So first, why mobile? The first point here is that it is ubiquitous. I mean, at this point, mobile professionals are mobile enabled. Everybody has a smartphone, everybody has a tablet, and there is just an expectation that your core business applications are going to be running on those mobile devices. So for a sales rep who is out detailing physicians, they have a requirement to submit adverse events that they hear about, and therefore they have a natural expectation in this day and age to be able to do that from their mobile platform. The other reason why mobile is so attractive in this particular space is because we have the ability to capture the information quickly and easily at the source when it happens, and that kind of immediacy improves compliance. If you make it hard for the sales rep to report that adverse event, you're going to end up with compliance problems. So a very streamlined, very simple solution that allows them to comply with their regulations for reporting makes it much easier for them to do so, and that ease results in increased compliance. So the mobile platform is really a great way in which we can facilitate this core regulatory requirement for your staff. So there are a number of different use cases that we have identified, and I've listed 6 of them here, and there's probably 6 more, where we feel that the mobile extensions to the pharmacovigilance process really make sense. And we're focused on, in the initial release of PRIMO, these first 3, which is the intake of an initial adverse event discovered in the field, the management of the correspondence between the PV department and that sales rep who is reporting that information, and the submission and management of any follow-up information that sales rep may come across either spontaneously or in response to specific questions coming from the pharmacovigilance department. In the next wave of tools, we're going to look at proactive notification of pending follow-up. So, for example, if a CRA is about to visit a site, notify that CRA of all of the open follow-up requests for that site that they happen to be visiting. Also, really starting to proactively inform the sales representative of AE reporting history for a given physician, for example. So when they walk into the sales office, they know whether they're walking into a friendly environment or one where the physician may have some reservations about the product based on their AE reporting history. And then the last area that we're looking at, and this is part of a bigger strategy of ours, is how can we help manage risk management through mobile alerting. So we see a lot of very interesting use cases for this technology, and are excited about moving forward with our initial product. So when we think about the mobile, challenge that the Salesforce challenge, in a very typical scenario that we've seen talking to companies about their intake process for reps, we have a scenario that looks something like this. The sales rep visits a client to discuss a product or an issue. In the context of that, the healthcare professional will mention an adverse event. At this point, then, the sales rep needs to jot down some notes about what's going on. Then typically they'll, at some time offline, log into the corporate web page, maybe click on a link to download a PDF, transcribe their information onto that, scan the PDF, send it to the PV team, and it's effectively a paper-based process in many cases. Even if it's electronically enabled, it's effectively paper-based because of all the various offline and discontinuous translation of the data. And what we hope to do with our mobile solution is really streamline that process. So when the HCP mentions that adverse event, just to pull out your iPad, capture a few quick details, and then send it into the PV department right then and there, and have the tool help you ensure that you've got the information necessary to respond, for the processing of that event. So, and the solution looks like this. This is our PRIMO Mobile tool, and I'm showing it here both on an iPad as well as a phone. And there are some key things about PRIMO Mobile just to sort of put out there early on here before we get into the details and the demonstration. And the first piece is one of the most important, and that is that PRIMO Mobile is a true multi-platform tool. So it runs on iOS applications as shown here. It'll run on an Android platform. It'll run on a Microsoft mobile platform. Any mobile platform that supports a standard browser can run PRIMO Mobile. And that same software also runs on laptops and desktop computers. So we have a single piece of software that really supports the entire business process from the mobile sales rep all the way through the pharmacovigilance department, and it looks the same and behaves the same on whatever platform that the user happens to log in as. So in the scenario where, let's say, a sales rep doesn't have their iPad or doesn't want to pull the iPad out, they can go back to their hotel, log into PRIMO Mobile on their laptop, and everything that you're going to see in the demo today will work exactly the same on their laptop as it would on their mobile device. So it's multi-platform. It's also form factor sensitive. You get a sense of that here with the two different views. On the left with the iPad is a large landscape view showing the AE management subsystem and the workflow. On the right, you see a form factor sensitive data entry screen where all of the fields are simply stacked up on top of each other because that's all the more room that the iPhone can afford it. The application is completely configurable, so everything that you see, for example, in the data entry screens, the fields that you capture, the order you capture, the label that you capture them with, all of that is fully configurable, and we have a very simple drag and drop UI editor that designs those data entry screens for you so that you can do this pretty much on your own without a lot of intervention from us, the software vendor. The application is also fully localized, so it works for true global implementation. And you'll see some of that today in the demo where I'll show you the application running in both English and Japanese. But it will also support other languages as well. So if you want to deploy this as a tool across your entire enterprise, each local country office can have the application running in their local language with specific forms that capture information that is sensitive, for example, to their geography or the product line that they're selling. And there's just a tremendous amount of flexibility both in what gets captured and how it gets presented to the users. And PRIMO Mobile is available as a software as a service, a platform on the cloud as well. So what does it look like? Our goal in all of this is to keep it simple. Everything about PRIMO Mobile is designed to be streamlined and easy to use and accessible. So what we have been represented here is a field rep, a sales rep is out in the field detailing. They hear about an adverse event. They get their iPad out. They first log in to the application to the PRIMO Mobile server. And as I mentioned, November Research Group offers a cloud-hosted solution for this tool. So they would authenticate against that. Once PRIMO Mobile has authenticated that you've authenticated, everything that you see once you log in is specific to you and your company. So the functions that you can perform, the screens that you see the products in the product drop-down list, the studies, the doctors, everything that gets presented to you now is specific to you and your company configuration. And all of the information that you capture in the application is fully audited. Obviously, this is a 21 CFR Part 11 compliant solution, so everything that happens here is fully audited as you would expect. So the field rep captures information, and once that information is complete, they transmit that information to the PV team. And the workflow that I'm going to show you today, and that's represented here on the screen, is that we send that information via email into the PV team. So this is a scenario where PRIMO Mobile is being used as a completely standalone application. It also will integrate into our PRIMO platform for customers that are using PRIMO, but for the purposes of our demonstration today, we're going to focus on PRIMO Mobile as a standalone application. Along with that email that gets sent, a PDF representation of the data will be sent, and we also have the ability to transmit an XML file as well if that is something that your company is interested in doing. So we capture the information on the tablet. That information gets transmitted to the PV team, either as a PDF or an XML file that can then be processed by the PV team. When the PV team receives that information, they may have questions for the field rep, and PRIMO includes its own built-in messaging system that allows the PV team to correspond with the field representative around the information on the report. That message is part of PRIMO Mobile, and it is fully audited and becomes part of the record of the case. So any correspondence that the PV team has with the field rep is captured within PRIMO Mobile and stays with that report and is audited as part of that report. Now that follow-up request, or that message, may actually result in follow-up information being sent back to the PV team for processing, and that process can cycle until the PV team is satisfied that they have a real case, at which point they can enter that information into their global PV system, or if XML is part of that process, they can hand that XML file off for import into their PV tool. So that's the basic business process that PRIMO Mobile is designed to support. So let's go ahead and move into the demonstration phase. What I'm going to show you today is basically a simulated demonstration using PowerPoint automation and screenshots. But please believe that the software is real. It's actually in the process of being implemented in our first production release. So it should be live at our first customer in Japan within the next few weeks. And if you still don't believe it, feel free to give us a call, and we'd